So this video is supposed to help you get an understanding of the basics of using Verbatim for debate. And this is assuming that you've already used the installer to download Verbatim. So after you've used the installer and you have Verbatim on your computer, you're going to open up Word. And it's going to ask you to open up a particular template. So usually you open up a blank document, but after you've done Verbatim and you have it installed, Verbatim will create a new template for you called the debate template. And whenever you use Verbatim, you're going to want to use the debate template. So we're going to open this. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to want to do when you first set up Verbatim is you're going to want to click the little tab here called Add-ins. This version of Word is 2016, and so it has the corresponding Verbatim version. And the Verbatim toolbar, which is what I have right here, it's a little ribbon created by the Verbatim template, is in the actual toolbar itself, and it's called Add-ins. In other versions, it'll be sort of a little ribbon that's floating at the very top. Anyways, what you're going to want to do is you're going to click the settings. For different versions of Verbatim, it looks a little bit different, but all of them have basically these three gears. So when you click settings, it'll come up with this. You want to click Verbatim settings. And here is basically where you can alter some of the things for Verbatim. So I won't explain all the details of it, but basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to first go to the format in the settings, and you're going to want to alter it depending on your preferences. So a few things that I definitely suggest is first you're going to want to click underline cite. You'll also want to click bold underline. You'll want to click box for your emphasis, and I would suggest making the box 1.5 points. And you might not know what those are right now, but you will pretty soon. I usually just keep the defaults for all of this other stuff, but as you do and use Verbatim more, you might change it up based on your sort of preferences. Now, the other thing that's important to do here is you might want to go to the admin section. And in the admin section, you'll want to click always on mode in auto update styles. And it'll be unclear to you what that means right now, but you'll figure out later. After that, click save. It'll take some time to save. Okay. So what we've done is we've changed the format of different sort of styles in this Word template. And what that does is every time we make a certain body of text a particular style, it will have those features and characteristics that we just assigned it to in the format settings. So the cite style will be underlined. The underlined style will be bold. And we'll see that very soon. So now that we've fixed the settings, we'll talk about all the sort of nifty functions that Verbatim has in order to help you cut cards in debate. So the first thing that we want to look at is the paste without formatting. And I'm sure most of you all have already done this before in your life, but when you cut articles or PDF files and things like that, oftentimes there's a lot of sort of annoying things in there, or it'll be weird font, or you might have an image in there. What Verbatim helps you do is once you copy and paste something, regardless of the font, regardless of whether or not you've accidentally copied an image in there, if you press F2 on your computer, or you click F2, it'll paste it without format. Now the other nifty thing that Verbatim will help you with is that oftentimes when you copy and paste, you'll have just sort of all these little paragraphs, and you're not going to want to have your card be multiple different paragraphs, but you want it to be one large paragraph. Or another example is if you copy and paste from PDF, sometimes the PDF itself does not maintain paragraph integrity, and so you'll just have a lot of random enters out there. What Verbatim helps you do is it condenses everything for you. So this will get rid of all the extra paragraphs. It'll also get rid of double spaces in between words. And so you highlight all the stuff that you want to be condensed together. You press F3 and it'll condense everything for you like that. Awesome. So Verbatim can also help you cut cards very efficiently. Just like you would be cutting cards normally, you highlight the part that you want, and what you do on Verbatim is you press F9. F9 corresponds to underline, and if you notice, it looks exactly like you would look if you bolded and underlined your particular text. Now, the other thing that's helpful in Verbatim is it has this function that's not necessary but pretty useful, which is called emphasis, and that corresponds to F10. What emphasis does is it puts a box around the words that you think are particularly important. And this is really helpful for those of you who might not be very good at reading and spreading with a certain level of persuasion, and putting some emphasis in your cards will sort of remind you to be a little louder, or maybe put some sort of emphasis on these words that will help you sound less monotone. So that's very helpful. So let's pretend like I'm going to cut the rest of this card. Okay? Now, the other thing that Verbatim is helpful for is usually when we cut a card, we want the surrounding text to be much smaller than the card itself. And so what you can do is you'll put your cursor anywhere in this paragraph, right? And if you press Command 8, it will shrink all the surrounding text in that paragraph that you had your cursor in that is not underlined or emphasized into smaller text. And that's very, very helpful and nifty. And so you can press it again and it'll make it smaller, and press it again and it'll make it smaller, press it again, it'll make it smaller. And then after it's gotten to its smallest point, if you press it again, it'll revert to its original size, and you just sort of cycle through it like that. And the last thing that Verbatim does to help you cut evidence is it has a highlight function. And so you can highlight cards, and if you do highlight cards for word efficiency, all you have to do is press F11, and it'll go ahead and highlight the cards for you. Okay. Now, when citing your evidence, right, generally speaking, we have a citation for the evidence. So I'm going to collect the citation very quickly. Oh, whoops. Okay, so pretend that's enough for a citation. So usually what we like to do is we like to put the author name in a larger way so that we can read just the author name when we're talking about the piece of evidence. Now, traditionally, I think what Brentwood does is we put the author name in the tag. Something that I did in Verbatim, because it has the function for you, is because we want to put it right next to the original citation itself, so that if there's any questions about the evidence, you can immediately point to it, or if you need to reference certain things like the author's qualifications that you wouldn't necessarily read all the time, it's right there for you. And so what I'll do is I'll put the person's name again, so and the date, so let's pretend it's from 2016, and I will underline it and press F8. If you notice F8 on the side, it says cite. And what cite is basically all the citations that you're going to read. And so notice how I can also make the citation in the surrounding sites smaller. So if it's a very long citation, sometimes that's very helpful. Okay, so that's all the sort of nifty things that Verbatim helps you do when cutting evidence.